Hi there, everyone. Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And what I'm going to do is today another trailer review. I've already done two of these in the past, and I'm trying something a little bit different right here as I dive into the Owl House. You see, normally I try to take my time with breaking apart all of the different elements, write up a whole script and everything else like that. It eats up quite a bit of time. So I'm trying something out this time where I'm doing a bit more of a live reaction, quote unquote, to this newest promotional. And with this particular review and with this particular reaction, I am going to approach this from the perspective of a writer. Now, normally people approach these from the perspective of, I'm such a fan and oh my gosh, this theory has been stoked, or it's been confirmed, or ooh, the shipping, or ooh, this is going to be amazing when I see it. And I mean, some of that's going to come on through with this review, but instead what I want to do is I want to focus on the writing elements within this series. Once again, this is a YouTube channel for novice writers by novice writers, and that means that I'm going to be paying far more attention to the narrative, how well it's been written, how are the characters evolving, is this strong continuity, because that's something we definitely want to keep an eye out for, and how do we feel the story is going to evolve overall? Will they be able to maintain the strength of the first season? Will they be able to shed the weight that might have held back some of the episodes and then focus in on the things that really make the Owl House awesome? So we're going to see how this goes. There is normally, when it comes to writing, there's normally the stigma for the second installment. Usually the second book in a trilogy or the second book in a series seems to lag. That is the normal, that's the normal expectation. It's the, it's the stigma, I guess I should say, for usually the second installment. You see this in Beyonders. You can even see it to a degree in something like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. It's a great story, but it does lag behind the crazy nature of the first book, all the wow and pizzazz and the speed. The third book also has fantastic pacing. The second book, not so much. Really, one of the few books that kind of defies that expectation of the second book being laggy would be looking at The Two Towers from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that's because it just comes out of the gates with so much strength, so much is going on. And Amphibia as well. Amphibia's second season also kind of defied the expectations of the second season, somewhat being a little bit laggy. The second installment not quite living up to the same hype, power, and speed as the first installment within the series. So this is something the Owl House is going to have to confront, and thus far from what I've already seen, it seems as though it will do that. But I'm going to get more into those details as I dive into this promotional. One more thing, I know I've already kind of dragged on a little bit here with this introduction. One more thing that I definitely want to get into as far as breaking this down is, I know that there are a ton of spoilers that have already been dropping for this season. This ticks me off to no small degree. The same thing happened with True Colors, and that was annoying. Ricky Rat, the Disney company, has really had a bad track record with letting its materials out there. Now then, I've heard other YouTubers say, well, that's because of how they've diversified all of their properties throughout the world. Different regions will get materials, will get shows before the United States. Stuff gets leaked. It's the age of the internet. And true, that plays a part in it. But the thing, though, is that if you have a multi-billion-dollar company and the Disney Channel is a viable extension of that company that brings in a lot of revenue, you would think that they would know how to line everything up so that way they can release all of their material at the same time or relatively close to it in order to appeal to multiple groups of fans all throughout the globe. Yes, I know there's differences in time, yada yada yada, but for crying out loud, logistics are something that people get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to figure out, and with a little bit of ingenuity, you can figure out the logistics of releasing everything on time. No, these leaks are because Disney does not care. Ricky Rat only cares about making money. It does not matter if the story is good. It doesn't matter if the story is released in a fulfilling way. They don't care about it. All they care about is making their bucks. And that is one of the reasons why you have all of these spoilers leaking out onto the internet. Because if they actually cared about releasing the story in a good way that complements the flow of the narrative and also complements the expectations of the fans, you would actually find the show doing way, way better. But try explaining that to someone who just doesn't really care, so long as the bottom line is black instead of red. So, that little rant out of the way, let's get into this promotional for the Owl House. I will not be going much into the spoilers that I've already dropped, except for where I think that they might be good to help flesh out some of the stuff that we've already seen right here. I will not be showing spoilers otherwise in this video. So, let's continue on.
Hola, Mama. You haven't heard from me in a while. It's been a week and a half since the petrification ceremony. A week and a half since I destroyed the portal home.
Now then, I'm pausing this right here to talk about why you need something like this. So, when I was younger, when I was a much younger viewer and a much younger writer, I actually hated these kinds of recaps because I'm like, hey, I already know what's going on. Let me just dive on into the story. But as I have become more experienced as a writer, I've realized you need those kinds of recaps. Not only do the fans need them in order to better understand, okay, what's all happened before, but you also need them as a reminder for where you have been. A journey through your story requires road marks, and you need those road marks to not only know where you're going, but where you have come from. It's very, very easy to forget where you've come from, and sometimes you need to look back in order to contextualize what's coming in the future, as Luz is going to kind of give us a little bit right here.
I had to. Emperor Bellos was going to kill Ida if I didn't hand it over, but I couldn't let him use it, so I blew it up with some magic fire. She's not going to understand any of this. That's okay, Luz. Just keep moving forward.
Oh,
this
man.
world is filled with...
I love how Luz basically tried to put throw a wrench into the Emperor's plan by blowing up the briefcase, by destroying the door. The funny thing, though, is that, like, if she had really thought about it, I think she would have realized that this is just only barely delaying the Emperor. Right here. It's a mild inconvenience.
Inexplicable magical wonders, like this portal key. I don't know if it contains magic, but I'm gonna study all I can and find a way back to you.
Okay, there's something I need to point out here. That key should have been revealed at the end of last season. That should have been kind of like, man, this is one of the problems with doing the live reviews. Suddenly your mind goes blank and you're like, wait, what? That's where having a script comes in handy. Children, remember that. Scripts are usually better than doing live reviews or live analyses, because suddenly your mind goes poof and you're like, wait, what was that again? Chekhov's gun. That's what I was searching for. The key is a Chekhov's gun, which states if you see something of obvious prominence or of obvious use within a scene, you expect it to then be fired in the next scene, in this case like a gun. Or better yet, when you're writing, if you see something of obvious prominence, it should return later on with some sort of significance. This idea has been challenged recently with J.J. Abrams' famous mystery box. The mystery box is an interesting literary concept, but it's one that only works well for certain types of stories. It cannot and should not be used for every single story. Instead, Chekhov's gun is way more universal. You're like, oh, that's prominent right there. If I see this key, wait a second, the key went to the door. So if the Emperor has the door and Luz has the key, what can I then expect in the upcoming season? Does that mean she has to steal the door back? Does that mean he's going to come after her to get the key? What's going to happen next? This is an opportunity that I feel was lost. It was small, somewhat insignificant maybe in the larger scheme of things for right now, but it's very obvious that this key is going to be important as we move on. Okay, so we've already got right here a bunch of different stories, boop, 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 being shown right here. Oh my gosh. So, stopping on this right here, let me start right here with one that we got. This looks a whole lot like Emperor Bellos right here. If you look at the horns are very similar to the horns that we see coming up out of his crown. This goes against the theory that Bellos was a human and falls way more in with the theory that I had that Bellos is a demon. One of the reasons why I definitely subscribe more to this theory that he is indeed a demon and not a human trying to get back to the human realm is once again that the demons have a special connection to the Isles. They are the spawn of the Titan that died and birthed this island of insanity. On top of that, demons don't really have the same magical potential as we've seen from the regular witches. Now then, once again, this is kind of strange right here because the denizens of the Boiling Isles come in all different shapes and forms. I love the fact that the people are so widely varied. That is awesome. But there's definitely something to say that it seems as though the demons are slightly different from the more elfine witches in that they have obviously not only very different bodies, but they have a different way of interacting with magic. And when we look back at Bellos and his fights with Luzs, he is clearly using way more different types of magic than simply what we have seen from the regular witches with their wands or staffs really and drawing circles. Instead, Bellos was using all different kinds of powers. And so with this image right here, it's very clear Bellos is a demon. This is just a really nice confirmation of some of the tiny details that we saw back in season 1. I also love how we get to see Lilith wearing a t-shirt with kind of an empty battery symbol, signifying once again that Lilith is low on magic thanks to her sharing Ida's curse. And some of the other little shots that we get right here help to establish the creepiness of the Boiling Isles. This is one of the strengths of the show, that it dives into its horror element. The more that the Owl House subscribes to its horror side of storytelling, the stronger it will be. Some of the best episodes are the ones where the show gets dark. True, there are those fun fluff bits at the school with shipping, stuff like that. Those are kind of like the little fluff bits. Those are the cotton candy of the story, where it's shiny, it's bright, it's tasty, but honestly, it's not as filling in the long run as the ultimate horror of the Boiling Isles. That is something that Luz has to constantly come into contact with, because for her, fantasy is something way more uplifting, cutesy, hilarious, fun, but the truth of the matter is that in this fantasy world, it is dark, it is dangerous, it is creepy. Anything can happen, and that anything is usually something bad. That has been well established already in this short series of shots. Okay, so I'm stopping it right here once again. This comes back to what exactly is Emperor Bellos' plan, the Day of Unity. Now that we get to see more with the Titan, this comes back to the idea that Emperor Bellos is trying to restore the Titan, and that Emperor Bellos maybe is trying to not only restore the Titan, but maybe is trying to usurp the place of the Titan. Who really knows? Who really knows? Like, this is a lot of theory right here. If you want more about that, please go check out my previous video on Emperor Bellos' identity and his overall plans. I'm really excited to see how this season either contradicts or confirms what I said there in that video. It's also good to see that we're going to get some more clips of Luz's mother. It's very obvious that she's going to learn very quickly on that her daughter is indeed missing and is going to go looking for her. I think that she should have realized earlier on that the letters that are coming to her are definitely not from Luz. And it's kind of like a neat connection right there, that her mom has just always kind of seen her daughter as this ne'er-do-well. She can't do well in school. She's not living up to her potential. She's a goof off. And so chances are that when she saw the letters that misspelled her daughter's own name, she probably just thought it was funny that her daughter just made a cute little mistake. But that should have been a clue to a mother who was more connected, more involved with their daughter, to realize, oh, something is not quite right here. And this doesn't mean that Luz's mom is bad. This just means that this is going to play more into the found family theme within the show. Normally, this found family theme, we normally think of it as, oh, a child or a protagonist is an orphan and they find a new family, or they come from a seriously horrible family and now they've got to join in with this much better family for them. That's usually what we see in this theme of found family. In this case, Luz's mom is not a bad mom, but rather it shows that Luz's mom has not really understood her daughter, has not really well connected with her, and has missed some serious cues. That means that Luz has been able to explore herself far more freely and truly be herself on the Boiling Isles, because there, the weirdos of the Isles understand her better. This is just a continuation of those themes from season 1. That is great continuity and ties in with a lot of the small details. That's when a story does really, really well, when it uses the small details to communicate continuity in the long run. I gotta stop her right here. Okay, this is one of those few moments where I will actually use some spoilers right here. The Emperor's agent. Don't know his name. I don't want it spoiled for me. I have seen just one clip of him where he faces off against Ida and Luz, and that was fantastic. Whereas the Emperor, the Emperor and his agent are both very much in control of the situation. They're very powerful, very confident, very in control. However, in this case right here, whereas the Emperor is menacing, his agent is mocking. And I love that. I love there's that overconfidence right there. That overconfidence is going to come to eventually bite him in the butt most likely. But for right now, it definitely communicates that he is a serious threat. And in that leaked scene that we got, holy dang, this guy is good. This is something that the show has definitely needed. It's definitely needed a good, competent villain to help push the protagonists along. Lilith and Ida was a very interesting dynamic back in season 1 because Ida is very powerful, so is Lilith. Lilith is a very capable witch. However, there was always something holding her back. She was not as smart or as powerful as her sister, and she was also held back by her guilt of cursing Ida, which means that, yeah, she wasn't giving it her all. This is a character, this agent right here, who has none of those reserves, and that makes him a much more tantalizing, much more dangerous character for our heroes to go up against. Okay, so we've got the return of the Owl Beast. Whether this is a nightmare or whether this is something that actually happens, I like that this is continuing on this theme of the Owl Curse. That's not a one-and-done deal, because even though it was really special at the end of Season 1 that Ida and Lilith shared the curse, I felt that it was a bit of a cop-out. And so I'm really glad that the curse continues to manifest itself. And as we'll see, it manifests itself in both Ida and Lilith. That is good. It goes to show that the threats that threaten to tear the family apart from within are still there. This comes back to what I pointed out in my review of The Intruder, that one of the main themes within the Owl House is not just simply external forces, but the darkness from within can also challenge and destroy us unless we are careful. And so this is once again a continuation of that latent theme throughout Season 1. Once again, this is very good continuity for the series and just overall in general. I love it. Okay, so we got a whole lot right there. Already this review's waxing a little bit long. There's just so much that we can talk about right here. The weird finger dragon, that sounds so wrong to say, but yeah, that's going to be really interesting to get more of later on. Also, I like that we get to see all of these different monsters and characters who are very likely just going to be kind of like monsters or guests of the week rather than anything huge in particular. But once again, it just goes to show what we can expect to come in this season. Also, what we're going to see right here is we're going to see the lead practitioners of the different fields of magic on the Boiling Isles. And it's also really cool that we get to see creatures that are very similar to the creatures that we've seen studying over at Hexside. This goes to show what we might call the different ethnicities there on the Isles, and that they are properly represented by the different leaders. Once again, this is just wonderful. Once again, this is just great continuity, but this is also like a good hint at some of the world building that we're going to get deeper into the other fields of magic, and we're going to get more about the people of the Boiling Isles. And so, yeah, that's just really great. It's like the Boiling Isles is not just weird for the sake of being weird, but we're going to get to know that weirdness. We're going to make sense of it, because for these people, this is just their daily lives. For us as the outsiders looking on in, it's like, whoa, that's so strange. One of the things I love within high fantasy series is when they take a very alien world and they begin to break it down and make it familiar. If any of you have ever read the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, and if you haven't, I highly recommend that you do. In the Stormlight Archive, there are tons of different ethnicities, there are different races of creatures entirely, and it's a very alien world. And yet, by the time that you get to the end of the 4th book in the series, it feels way more familiar, because Sanderson takes his time to introduce you to all of the different factions, all the different people, all the different monsters. You get to know about them, and this alien world starts feeling more and more like home. And I suspect that by the end of season 2, the Boiling Isles will feel more like home to us, because we'll understand its intricacies a little bit better. Okay, so there's King's Paw reaching for a light that is dimming. One of the things that I've really been interested in, one of the things that's really endeared me to the show, is the story of King. He's cute, he's funny, yes, he's often the butt of jokes, but King's obsession with some vague past where he was much stronger, where he was the king of demons, is played for as a joke by nearly every character. And yet the fact that it keeps on coming up again and again and again, some of the promotional art that we have seen, and also some of the things that King has said, some of the details in the background, hint that he is truly telling the truth right here. And because we know from the episode descriptions for the next 5 episodes, episode 2 is going to dive a little bit more into King's journey, I suspect that we're going to learn a little bit more about King's vague past, and we are going to learn just what kind of a demon he once was. This is going to be really interesting here. I can't exactly say as to what is honestly happening, but it's good to see that we're going to be returning more to the story of King, and that he continues to play a central role within the series, and that he's not just going to be relegated to a joke character off to the side. And with that actually being said, this is a very important thing to understand about your comedic relief characters. Comedic relief characters can either just be there to shoot off jokes to try to bring some levity to situations, or they can be participants within the story who go through their own character arcs. The comedians who end up having some of the greatest impact in the long run are those who actually evolve as the story goes on. And I'm really hoping that King is going to be in the latter group. Okay, awesome. Once again, so here we've got Lilith wearing the low battery t-shirt. Also, it's really awesome to see that she is using Luz's style of magic, using the papers that have the spells drawn on them. That's really cool. We also got to see that shot of Lilith and Ida back in school benches, most likely learning from Luz. I'm really happy that we're actually going to get that. That's going to be funny. And she's wearing Hootie's little house on her back, because it now is clear that Hootie can take himself out of the owl house and cram himself into another structure. Oh, Hootie, what a horrifying creature. Love that little owl. Or big owl. What? Long owl. What is Hootie anyway? Okay, so we're going to obviously be getting some backstory for Ida right here. And that's something, once again, we got a lot of backstory for Ida in Season 1. I'm happy that we're going to be continuing that, because Ida is a character who has already been through so many adventures. And arguably her adventure with Luz, even though she says that Luz has kind of brought a lot of meaning to her life, that she now has something to live and to fight for, it's very clear that a lot of Ida's greatest adventures have already come before Luz. She is a well-established mentor character, and one of the things that is very easy to do is just to introduce a mentor, say that they're really cool, and kind of move on. You got that with Yoda in the original Star Wars trilogy. Yoda was cool and everything, but we didn't really understand Yoda's story. And even in the Star Wars prequels, we truly still don't understand Yoda. He's just still that very awesome mentor figure. That is where the Clone Wars series did an excellent job of giving Yoda really more of a story, more of a personality, more of a character arc, so that way we can identify with him even more and love him even more as a mentor figure. The Owl House, rather than waiting on some appendage to the main series, is already focusing on giving Ida that backstory and making her awesome, as we learn more about her backstory and as we see how that complements or contradicts what she does in the present with Luz. Ooh, that's just great storytelling. Okay, so we got some other shots right there, just showing off a lot of other little bits of the show. Here we get another shot of past Ida, and we see that the curse is already taking hold of her. That is really cool to see. So it's neat that this curse is something that was very gradual as it consumed her. We're probably going to get some more about how she came up with the elixir, discovered it, or someone made it for her, so that way she could turn herself back into a regular witch. The witch that we get to see playing the violin, I'm really curious, because obviously, like, we've seen by now a ton of different characters. We've seen Amity's mom, we've seen various coven members, yada yada yada. These are all going to be very important characters within certain episodes. I'm very curious to know about this violin playing witch. There's already tons of different theories flying around about them. It's interesting. It's interesting how we've latched onto this one character right here. And I don't know why. Maybe it's the design. In any case, moving on. Okay. So I'm stopping this right here. Just to kind of give you guys a preview of something that I've got in the works. I've had in the works for a while, and I finally now have a lot of the necessary components to bring it all together. I personally believe that there is a connected universe between Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and the Owl House. Now, the connection between Gravity Falls and the Owl House has already been very well established within the canon of both Gravity Falls and in the Owl House. It hasn't been as well connected to something like Amphibia. However, for those of you who have seen Amphibia Season 2, when you look at this particular image right here, this should look eerily familiar to you right here. And this just is like another little puzzle piece in creating the magnificent collage of a connected universe theory, which is something I'm going to get into at a later date. So if you want to see that, please hit subscribe, so that way you'll be notified for when that video comes out. I'm hoping to have it out soon. Whew, fingers crossed. It's a lot of work. In any case, moving on. So most people for that little collage right there are going to be focusing on Luz and Amity holding hands, and I'm going to address that in a moment. But first, I want to get to this, because this is what has me most fascinated and interested. The Emperor consumes talismans. He needs energy from other witches' magic. When we look back at one of the earlier clips of the statues that were bleeding, one of the things I believe is that all of the witches he has petrified, that has been part of robbing them of their magic, so that way he can endow himself with even greater powers. And the side story of the Bat Queen just goes to prove that this guy has been hunting down witches for a very long time. This guy is a tyrant, and all the most horrible ways. And this little clip right here is there to remind us of the danger that the Emperor poses, that he's not just simply trying to catch Ida and Luz. He's not just simply building the door for the Day of Unity. No, this guy destroys other people to steal their magic. Oh, I'm so excited to learn more about that. Now then, as far as the hand-holding goes, yes, we pretty much have confirmation that Lumity is going to set sail. So for all of you shippers out there, you should be very happy about that. Now, one thing I want to address with this right here is the matter of writing romance. If you have been with Camille's Harem for any good stretch of time, you've by now learned from us that writing romance is hard. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. But what we've learned as we've tried to write our own romances, as we've analyzed and observed other romance arcs, there is real value to getting your couples together sooner rather than later. I would suspect that Luz and Amity do indeed become a couple in this season. Now then, for a lot of people are going to be like, yes, oh, that makes me so happy. Just imagine all the glorious fan art and the validation, the confirmation. Remember, I'm coming from the perspective of a writer. Romance is only as good as it enhances the characters and continues to propel them forwards. I suspect that Luz and Amity will become a couple by the end of this season. By the end of the season at the latest, probably sometime in the middle. What I then hope to see is how that relationship builds them up and builds up others around them. Because if romance isn't actually leading to further character development and not just simply, it just makes them a better person, which is what a lot of people say, then it shouldn't be done. And now that doesn't mean it's like, no, that ship shouldn't sail. No. What I'm saying right here is that when you write romance, the romance must complement the characters, the romance must progress the characters, and it must be progressed in various ways. If you just simply say they're in a relationship now, it makes them better, it makes them happier, woohoo, job well done, that doesn't work. That's just simply saying, huzzah, I'm done, punch through the card, I'm leaving for the day. You have done all of this work to build it up, you've had the payoff, and the payoff was like a finger snap. It hasn't been prolonged. We haven't seen its long-reaching consequences. That is something that we honestly need to see, and it's something that we don't get in a whole lot of stories. It's one of the reasons why the Netflix series, The Dragon Prince, is so good, is because when we finally get couples coming together, we don't only see them get together and huzzah, they've kissed, they're holding hands, oh, I love them, they're so cute. No, those relationships go further to challenge these characters, to enhance their progression, to get them to finally face things about themselves that they need to face, either together or on their own. That is very important, and that's something that is often very hard to capture with romance. So let's see how Lumity pans out throughout this season. I'm very curious to see what happens in the long run. Anyway, oh my gosh, how long has this video been going on? Let's continue going.
Knock, knock, human.
Oh, alright. So, once again, we saw how the curse is affecting Lilith. We get a very interesting character who is wrapped up in that cloak of stars and moon. And I honestly have no idea what's going on right there. So I'm not going to speculate until we get to see more. There's obviously lots of destruction, still lots of darkness. Fantastic. This right here, we see that the door has either been completely repaired or is almost done. And we see, once again, the importance of the key. Now, there's another promotional where we get a little bit more with that. We see that the key can open up other portals. This, once again, goes into the whole idea of a connected universe. For those of you who've been watching Amphibia and been paying attention, you'll realize that Amphibia is connected to multiple worlds. We've already learned that Earth is as well connected to multiple worlds thanks to Gravity Falls and as well to the Owl House. So, what this means then is that the Boiling Isles itself is also then connected to multiple worlds. What I expect that we're going to get some world hopping. And I love world hopping. This right here is what we call portal fantasy. The idea of our heroes jumping around from world to world to world in order to progress the plot. And Portal Fantasy is its own very interesting topic that I want to get to at a later date. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we've got going on here. Once again, there's a whole lot that's being released, a whole lot that's being leaked, and also Disney on top of that is just throwing a whole bunch of stuff our way. And, yeah, I really wanted to talk about it because the last video I did about the Owl House, I was just breaking down the opening, had a lot of fun doing that, but once again, that took a fair amount of time. It took a couple of days to watch, think about, write the script, edit everything together. And so in this case right here, this is way more off the cuff, way less preparation, no writing whatsoever. So I just wanted to see how this turned out right here. If this is something that you would like to see us do more on Camille's Harem here on the YouTube channel, please let us know. Please let us know in the comments, and we'll then know if this is something that we should continue or not. If it's something that you don't want, if you want something that's way more slow, methodical, well written out and thought out, awesome. Then that's what we're going to focus on. If you like these off-the-cuff reviews, then that's going to be something that we might do more of in the future, especially for something like the Owl House as the various episodes begin to come out. We'll just have to see how it goes. So please give us that feedback. And if you are interested in learning more about writing, if you liked this take as a writer on the narrative strengths and dangers of the Owl House, then please feel free to check out our other videos here on the channel. Also head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem, where you'll find plenty more there about how to be an author, how to improve as an author. And what we really want to do is we really want to build a strong community of novice writers that all help to support each other as we go on this adventure that we call writing. We already have a small community going. There is a link to our Discord server over our main channel. Please go check us out. Please be a part of our community. And with that being said, I'm so excited for the Owl House Season 2. Oh, it's been a long time coming. I'm so excited we get a full season. I'm so glad that we're getting Season 3. This is going to be amazing. And with that, until the next video, y'all, tschüss.